Gordon, first of all, was it always part of the Gordon Smith plan to find yourself in a job like this?
Not at all. No, it came as a bigger surprise to me, probably as it came to most people. I hadn't thinking about changing my career prospects, changing my direction in life. But when this job came along and I got offered it, I found it was a very exciting offer. It was a tremendous challenge, especially when you consider the importance of the job in football terms, looking after the SFA and being chief executive here. So all those factors put together made me decide to change and move into another field of employment, another walk of life.
Yeah, you say you were surprised. I think a lot of people were surprised. Why do you think they chose you?
I don't know. For the same reasons probably as you choose MD in a job, they feel I'm capable of doing the job. And I think that, you know, with my background, whether it's education background, business background and football background, then I ticked enough of the boxes in order to get given the job. So I can only assume that the people who are responsible for picking me feel that I'm the right man for the job.
You've only been in the job for a week or so. Has it thrown up any surprises so far?
Not really, no. I think that I decided to start the job earlier than was expected because it is the summer and the football was quieting down at the moment, although the under-20s are obviously involved in the World Cup. I decided not to go to Canada because I just felt at the moment it's better if I get my feet under the table and meet all the people who work here. There's a large staff involved at the SFA and there's different departments dealing with a whole load of different factors, and I felt it was important that I just got in the job and basically learned exactly what everyone's doing, got to know the people and can carry on. So when the actual season does start, I'm already well underway in terms of knowing exactly what I'm looking to do.
Yeah, you're seen now amongst the fans at least as being the head of Scottish football. Just exactly how big an influence does your job come with?
It comes a major influence in certain areas. You know, that we do have three bodies running Scottish football, though. I think people need to realise that. We have the Football League and we have the Premier League. So we've got a big responsibility for youth football through girls and women's football too, all the way up to the international team. So we're in charge of, other than the actual professional leagues, we're looking at all the football that's involved in the country and a big say in that. So it is a big responsibility, but it's also a responsibility that we can try and make the most of and get the best out of football as we take it forward at all the different levels.
Yeah, when you were first offered the job, once the initial sort of surprise and shock wore off, was there one particular issue that you thought, do you know what, I'll be in a position to do something about that?
Not particularly, not one issue. I just think I wanted to just look at football in general. I don't think there's any one issue is more important than any other. They do come up in sequence though, and that's the thing, that at certain times there'll be one issue maybe more important than another. Certainly some of the things you've got to deal with work out that way, but I don't think that I'm not taking it forward thinking I'm only going to consider one issue and that's the most important, because I do feel that running and operating Scottish football is the main job for the SFA, and I think that, you know, I'm now the chief executive of that position, so there's the management position of running the business as such, and there's also a leadership position in terms of representing the SFA at the different fields I have to do it, which is basically with other parties involved in Scottish football, but also at UEFA and FIFA level.
Yeah, one of the big issues in the press at the moment is this the issue on perhaps alcohol being allowed back into football matches. You played in the 1980 Cup final, which was perhaps Scottish football's darkest hour. Do you think alcohol should be allowed back in football stadia?
Well, at that time, and once again now, I don't drink at all, so it doesn't. I won't miss alcohol. If it's not available at football matches, because I don't take it. But I think that we've got to look at it sensibly. I think the biggest position here comes from the authorities and the police to decide whether they'd want to see alcohol back at football, not necessarily football clubs. I know it's to do with profits and making money from the game, and I know that a lot of people are very sensible with their attitude to drinking and how they can do it in a public place. But we do know that there is an element of people who can't be trusted in that respect. So I think it's really down to the authorities first and foremost to decide whether it's taken forward to the level of where clubs start to look at it, look at the commercial aspects of it. I think there are other factors involved here.
The issue has arisen through the Rugby Association. Do you think, though, that there is a major difference between rugby fans and football fans?
I think it has been over the years. I think that there's precedence been set in terms of the trouble that's been caused at football matches by certain people. So I think that has to be looked at, and whether we could consider the fact that if we make it open again, people are going to behave in a different manner is very much, as I say, the concerns I would think of the authorities and the police as well. And first and foremost, I do believe it is still their decision, first and foremost, whether the clubs begin to look at it and decide whether to take it forward and actually bring alcohol back into football grounds.
Yeah, they'd have to put a major amount of trust on the fans. I mean, police in recent seasons have been moving kick-offs forward, particularly in Old Firm games, in order to make sure that the fans perhaps don't have enough drinking time before the game. So you would imagine that the police would be very concerned.
I think they would be concerned. I think that would be a big factor because we've seen trouble in the past, and maybe the fact is what happened is as much of it in recent years since the ban came into place might be an argument towards saying that let's keep it the way it is because the game's been cleaned up. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Absolutely, if there's nothing wrong with it. So I think that's possibly the case here. But you know, you have to look at it in terms of, you know, as society moved on enough, other controls that could be put in people. I mean, I suggested that even if it was brought back in, there maybe needs to be limits to it, that everyone going into the ground maybe gets a voucher for a certain amount of drink, and that includes soft drinks as well, so that they couldn't stop somebody having a soft drink, take their voucher off them. Every person maybe allowed three drinks maximum at a football match if it comes back in. But there's a whole load of procedures to go through before we'd actually consider the fact that there's going to be alcohol at matches. And I think, as I said before, the authorities and the police will have the biggest say in this.
Do you think sectarianism is a major problem in Scottish football?
I think at the moment, I think it's been talked about an awful lot, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed, exactly where it comes and where it can be put out of the game. We don't want to see any sectarianism or any bigotry or any racism in our game, and we really want to get that cut out, and I think that's a stage that's moving forward at the moment, and I'm certainly going to be very much involved in taking that forward from the SFA's point of view to make sure that we can eradicate these factors from our game totally. Do
you think in the recent past Rangers have been unfairly treated and made perhaps to be scapegoats for a larger issue?
I'm not sure you can say that and say they haven't made a scapegoat. There is a larger issue there, but I think that Rangers themselves as a club have dealt very well with it. I think that they're looking to move on in terms of saying to the supporters, we'd want to eradicate this from the support and eradicate certain songs and chants, and this has been the biggest factor. It's not so much been about behaviour, it's mainly about songs and chants that have been considered to be offensive and be taken out. And I think that there are one or two other clubs in Scotland who need to look at these factors, whether they be considered sectarian or racist. There are certainly offensive chants out there in the football world, and a lot of these have to be dealt with, and we want to try and take the game forward so that it cleans up the image of the game for everyone, because we want football to be in a healthy state, and we want Scottish football to be in a healthy state.
How much of a factor do you think your Rangers past is going to play in this job? Do you think that's something you're going to always constantly have to answer against? I shouldn't have to. It doesn't really worry me as such. The only people who make me have to answer it sometimes are people who have an issue with it. So I don't think I'll have to do much of that. I think I'm seen now as a person who's SFA biased. I'm biased towards Scottish football in a world scenario, and I want to make sure that the game in Scotland is taken forward for everyone, for all the clubs, not for one club or another. The Rangers people know, the Rangers fans know that I'm not going to favour them in any way, and I would hope to think that all the fans of other clubs will see it the same way. So I don't see my Rangers background, it's part of my identity, but I don't see it as an issue at all. Moving on to matters on the field, one of Sepp Blatter's biggest concerns over the past few years has been what he calls simulation. Do you think that's an issue in Scottish football that needs dealt with? I
think it is. I think it's an issue in every football. I mean, simulation is obviously the euphemistic way of saying cheating, and I think that we need to look at that. I think it's somebody said to me recently, it's crept into the game. I said, no, it crept into the game a long time ago. It's now very strong in the game, and it's something that I think most people abhor. I don't think fans want to see it, and from time to time clubs benefit from it. I don't know whether they feel embarrassed by doing that, or whether even players get embarrassed by getting caught cheating anymore, but it's certainly something that I would like to address and look at, because one thing we want to do is to take it out of the kids' football, and we don't want to see kids being encouraged to do simulation just because they see their professional heroes doing it. I think we need to try and change attitudes in that respect.
I know everyone would agree with you, but it's such an sort of intrinsic part of the game now. You see it every live game on television now, and as you say, the kids are are repeating it on the playing field. Just exactly what can you do? Because it's a culture thing now, isn't it?
It is. The problem is it has come into the game as a culture thing, but I think we need to address it. I think it's something that I'm going to be looking at and talking about it to the Referees Association, and it's something I'd like to eliminate from the game. And I've got my ideas on how to do that. I don't want to get into it at the moment until I've actually spoken with the Referees Association, but I have ideas in terms of how we can clean the game up, and hopefully I would get support from that, from people, not only the fans who want to see it change, but also people within the game who maybe up to now haven't done enough in terms of stopping players doing this sort of thing. Maybe because they feel that it sorts itself out, it evens itself over the course of a season, that you get some against you, you get some for you. But I would like to see it cut out the game, so it's something I will be looking at.
Yeah, as far as the referees are concerned, it makes their job a lot more difficult as well, doesn't it?
It does, because I think a lot of the times the referee isn't actually seeing the incident as well as it's maybe shown later on in television. And television evidence is normally the biggest course of action we have in order for assessing who's players who are simulating cheating, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's something you need to look at, whether we take a bit more from TV evidence, but that's an issue that I'll be taking up with the referees.
What about the fact that the referees actually communicating with the fans? Should they be allowed to talk and be interviewed as a regular course of action after every game?
Yeah, I think there is a situation at the moment where there's a website where you can go and the referees can talk about any of the contentious issues that are out there and explain why they give them. I don't think the referees themselves, though, want to be interviewed after games. I don't think they really want to go down that road yet. Maybe down in the future that is something that might change, but at the moment they would rather just maybe have an explanation rather than a discussion or a questioning on it.
Yeah, you'll know yourself from doing radio phone-in shows that one great thing about this game is that fans want to talk about it. They want issues and they want things to talk, perhaps complain about, argue about. Is there a danger that we're trying to sanitise it a bit too much?
The thing is, there's plenty of opinion out there. There's no doubt about that. I don't know about sanitising it. I think the cleaning it up is a better way of putting it and getting the best from the game. I think that everyone is, I've found people, there's so much concern in the game and there's so much passion for football that I've got that. That's what brought me into this job, having the passion for the game. And I think it's the same with the people out there who watch and are fans of the game. And they want to talk about these issues, there's no doubt about it. And these issues become talking points, contentious points. Everybody wants to have an opinion on it. And I think that we have to look at that in general and say where we can actually improve aspects of the game. I think that's our role, and I think I'm now in a position where I can help do that.
Yeah, how big an influence does Scottish football play in a European scene?
I think we have
at the boardroom level.
Yeah, I think we have got an influence in the European scene. We've got there are UEFA committees there on that people go on to. I'll probably go on to one myself. The president and vice president will be going to committees. We've got David Taylor in a high position now as general secretary of UEFA. So I think that we've got a big Scottish influence, considering the fact we're a small nation. But we're a small, passionate nation. We love our football here, and I think one of the things we want to do is try and put our ideas across as well as we can. I think we were one of the last countries really who get caught up in the whole situation regarding simulation with players and cheating and all that. It just crept into our game at first, and then it has become commonplace. So I think if we can show some sort of action, other people might catch on if we can try and eliminate it here.
Yeah, let's talk about the league structure in Scotland now. Are you happy with the way the setup currently is? I
think the setup is good here, but I also think you can also look for improvement. I think that one of the things that I've been asked about in my pundit role was to try and create a bit more excitement, and that's why I felt that the system that I experienced in Austria and Switzerland was quite good, having a playoff division. Halfway through the season, the league splits and you need a playoff division of 8 teams for promotion again. The top 4 came back in the Premier League. The bottom 4 stayed back in the first division. I just thought it was just an idea I put forward, and some people have been very impressed by that, and some people think it could make a difference. But I think we've got to look at a lot of ideas. I think the playoff system is good in England, and we need to try and encourage that sort of aspect in the Scottish game, so we can see that getting towards the end of the season, the excitement's still there, and there's an awful lot of talking points still in the game. And I think my idea of a reconstruction or anybody else's has to be looked at. Our football's quite healthy at the moment, though. That's the thing we're finding out, that in terms of crowds for size of population, the SPL has been pretty good, but I think there's always improvements can be made.
Yeah. Would you agree, though, that as far as the SPL and First Division are concerned, the one up, one down isn't exciting?
It's not really. It's difficult for people to vote against it because you're voting really to a situation. A club could be voting to put themselves in a dangerous position. That's why I would say the system that I'm promoting means that 4 teams could go down, but by the same token, no teams could go down as well, and it's all on merit. So that they go into a division and play against each other. And if you said if the 4 teams came back up into Premier Division that were actually going into that division, you would say that they came back up on merit, deserve to do so. But it has still given 4 teams in the first division an opportunity to get promotion as well. So there's a lot of talk about the 1 up, 1 down, and people saying it's not enough. We should have more, but it is a small division. It's not like England where you've got big divisions and therefore you get a lot more teams involved in playoff scenario. We have to be careful that we don't want to have too many teams up and down, but we want to make it exciting, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, which brings me on to my next question. Is there space for more teams in the SPL?
There could be space for it. I don't see it happening. I think that 12 is the maximum we're going to see. I don't see any change happening there. If there was any change, it might have been to reduce it to 10. And we don't really want to see it that either. It's good if 12 teams get the opportunity to play. So I think any talk about a 14, 16, 18 top league it's not going to happen. So I think we need to look at the whole issue based on the fact that we have a 12-team Premier League. I don't think it's going to change in the future.
Yeah, the issue of SPL2, are you quite glad that seems to be an idea that's now dead in the water?
Not really. I think it has something, maybe it had some merits. I don't know if it's totally dead in the water yet, but I think that we need to look at, it would be great if all the leagues were just attached to each other rather than SPL and SFL. But I think that we're looking at a scenario now where it looks as if no one's doesn't think that the SPL2 is going to happen. But you never know, if people might change their opinion on that down the line. It depended on sponsorship, a whole load of financial factors. But I think that we want to see the fact that teams still will move from division to division. So there's no hold up there. We may also have to look at the scenario where teams might be allowed to come into the league as such. So we might have to look at a pyramid system down the line where there's an opportunity for teams who are at the moment not in the Football League, maybe getting an opportunity to get there as well by a playoff system too.
Yeah, Peter Lawwell recently has sort of bandied the idea around of the Celtic reserve team getting into the league. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think that has to be looked at. I mean, that's not going to be my decision either. I mean, that's just something that I just saw of interest in. I think that there are merits in it for some of the lower division teams on the basis of the fact that, like having Celtic or Rangers in the lower divisions might pull in crowds for these teams from time to time, and there's a financial aspect to it. But there's also a situation where some of the teams, they don't want to have that. They don't want to have Rangers and Celtic involved down in their division, taken away to a certain extent from the division. It all becomes all about Rangers and Celtic then. So there is a bit of antipathy towards it too. So it's not going to be as easy, I think, to put through as maybe you would imagine. But I think that I'm quite glad to a certain extent that I don't have that decision to make.
Yeah. Moving on to the national team finally, how disastrous would it be for Scotland if we didn't qualify from this Euro 2008 group? I think
disastrous, not the word, but disappointing definitely, because you want to be in the finals of European competition. The hardest thing we got was the fact that we came into this group as a 4th seed, and we got as hard a group as we could possibly have got. There's no doubt about it. And the very fact that we see it as we started the group, we had the 2 World Cup finalists right in front of us, and although we've beaten one of them already, which is fantastic, there's still a long way to go. I don't think there's any doubt Walter Smith has turned the international team around to a great extent, and Alec McLeish is keeping that going as well. He's got a lot of abilities to bring to this job, and hopefully he can get Scotland into a qualifying position. It's all down to the results coming up, whether we, not only from the point of view of ourselves getting results, we're maybe relying on 1 or 2 things happening in other matches too. But it's certainly an exciting time. If we were sitting down near the bottom of the group with no chance of qualifying, it would not be anywhere near as exciting as it is at the moment, when we are in a position where we have certainly possibility still at this time to go forward. So we can only do our best, but we know the fact it's going to be very difficult, but we do believe at this point in time that we're still in a qualifying position.
Yeah, you mentioned the seeding. Where realistically do you think Scotland should be in the world rankings?
Well, what we're trying to do is, we know for a fact that if we get results from matches, whether they're friendly matches, international matches, our coefficient increases, and what happens is then we can get into a better seeding position, and that's going to be becoming very important for the World Cup. My understanding is that only 9 group winners and 4 runners-up will get through to the next World Cup in South Africa. Now that shows you at the moment how tough that's going to be when you consider the fact that 5 group runner-ups aren't even going to make it through. So we really want to be in the best position we can be in, and the only way to achieve that is maybe to try to get ourselves in a higher seeding position when the draw comes about, and we only do that as well by getting as good a results as we can in the forthcoming matches in the European Championships and any other obviously important friendlies that we come against.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier on that you've also got an eye over the whole of Scottish football from a grassroots level as well. What kind of state is that in? Because we see some of the younger Scottish teams doing particularly well, under 19 championships last year, for instance. Is there an age in particular where things seem to go wrong?
No, at the moment there's a big campaign going on at the moment in terms of youth football. It's already been put in place. It's started up, and it's a difficult structure to actually finalise and totally bed in. But that's happening at the moment, and I'm looking at that very closely to see where it takes it forward. Because what we want to do is we want to get as many kids playing the game as possible in Scotland, enjoying football, and also when you get that, you then start to pick out the real talented ones, and they go forward into the professional game. So we're looking to really establish the youth football plan in order that we can actually look to a stage in the future where Scotland are producing a lot of good players as we did in the past. So I think that seems pretty healthy at the moment, and we are getting decent players through the different levels. Under 19s are doing pretty well, under 20s in the World Cup at the moment, and we just need to make sure that we maintain that. And when the players are ready to move to the full international level, then we need to know that they're capable of taking that step up.